Hello, and thank you for joining me on this course, The Quantum Mind. I am looking forward to taking you on a journey essentially about how to optimize your life. And the philosophy behind this course is that you optimize your life by optimizing your mind. A little bit of background about me: I am a scholar, writer, and researcher. I received my PhD at the University of Sydney in 2007. And ever since 2010, I have been researching and looking deeply into philosophies of excellence. I became very interested in Buddhism in the early period of my research, and then I started to pursue that trail from Buddhism to neuroscience and onward to Kabbalah, Hinduism, neuro-linguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, and numerous other modalities of optimizing human thinking. And in the last 8 or so years, I have come to a realization that a lot of these modalities of thinking and techniques that exist across this wide array of literature tend to repeat. There are some facets that tend to repeat across time, history, and culture. And I think that's the case because biologically human beings have not evolved as drastically as they might evolve culturally, or as they might vary across cultures and across time. So the essence of creating a mind with a well-tended garden, a mind with a well-established mindset are essentially the same. And that's why I kept seeing all these different facets of wellness and well-being and mindsets for excellence and success repeat from scripture that's 5,000 years old, if you go back to the Vedas, to present day New Age spirituality. So what I've done in this course is I've taken this 8 years of my laboratory work, and when I say laboratory work, I mean myself. I was the lab rat. I took myself out of a situation of unhappiness. I was very unhappy in my career. I had a long-term relationship breakdown. I immigrated to a new country, and I just couldn't find my place in the world. And so I took all of that and I wanted to find out what are the essential elements for happiness, for creativity, for productivity, for living a fulfilled and purposeful life. And I am delighted now to be able to put this research together, because this is my highest calling, is to pursue knowledge, to formulate new knowledge, and then to pass it on to you. So I just want to go very quickly over your course outline. I'm going to start with the notion in Module 1. We're going to talk about Buddhism, because that was initially my point of departure. How do I deal with suffering? Where does suffering reside? And I'm going to take all the elements from Buddhism that were truly antidotal to painful thoughts and emotions and behaviors that I was experiencing in my life, and I'm going to condense eons of Buddhist teachings to that essence, to show you how Buddhism teaches people to live intelligently, to cultivate emotional intelligence, to deal with the ups and downs of life, and in that way also then to be able to maintain a new kind of happiness, a happiness that is irrespective of circumstances and irrespective of what's happening outside of you. So in that first module, we'll be looking at the concept of suffering as opposed to the concept of pain. We'll look at the Buddhist as well as some neuroscientific indications for the concept of the self. Who am I? What am I? And this is kind of starts to blend in a little bit with Hinduism. But I've tried to separate the different traditions as much as possible. And then, of course, we're going to go into the Buddhist mind hacks for gaining control over your life. Then in Module 2, we are going to look at the psychology of excellence. Once we have removed you out of your suffering, because you came to this course probably in the likelihood either you want to achieve excellence or you're in a state of suffering right now. So the first thing is to make sure that we get you thinking straight, at least neutral. And so once we've done that, then we can start to tweak your mind, to tweak your subconscious, to devise strategies mental strategies for what it is that you want, so you achieve clarity about your life. And then how do we get you there? So in order to delve into the psychology of excellence, I look at neuro-linguistic programming and its models for perception and communication with others, so that you have a more fulfilling relationship with the external world, while also still paying a great deal of attention to your internal modalities of thinking and how you represent the world. Once we have done that, once you can acknowledge which parts of your life you are creating, and you actually eventually might come to the conclusion that you're creating all of them, then we can start to devise strategies for gaining clarity over who it is you are. What are your core values? What are the most important things to you that if you went against them, you would be unhappy, because you'd be like breaking some inner moral code. And then up against that, we're going to determine what are the things that are most valued to you in terms of achieving, so that you are living a life of purpose and meaning. Because people who are living a life of purpose and meaning tend to be happier overall. And then they're better able to deal with, you know, the things that might unexpectedly pop up and that other people might find just too much to bear. So we will be looking at also the things that are blocking you. After we've determined that, we'll look at the things that are blocking you from freeing yourself to pursue what would be considered your highest purpose, or living a life of meaning, or making sure that you're in alignment with your core values. So for example, if one of your core values is honesty and integrity, and you're working for a corporation that is acquiring its wealth by deception, you are going to have an internal conflict, a cognitive dissonance. So the idea is to clarify that for you and align you so that you are no longer in conflict with yourself, whether consciously or unconsciously. And so we look at anything that's stopping you. And for these, we rely on Jungian psychology of unconscious beliefs. So we kind of try and flesh out what are the things that you have accumulated over time in terms of beliefs that are basically no longer true, or even if they are true, are changeable by virtue of you just applying a different set of skills to analyzing a situation, or reprogramming the memories around that. So it's like frame shifting. We shift your perception from a set of dots, a series of dots. They're still the same dots, but you can perceive them in a different way. And this is basically what optimizing your mind is all about. It's optimizing how you perceive the world and the way you construct your perception of the world. And then we move on to Module 3. In Module 3, we look at the 4 pillars of well-being. These are nutrition, exercise, mental hygiene, and education. If you think about it, every single religious tradition or spiritual practice includes some kind of fasting ritual, some form of exercise, some form of prayer or daily ritual of meditation, and some form requiring you to read and pursue scripture. So the reason these things are done has to do with the way that the body is made. What we put into our body in terms of food and drink, and even the smoke we choose to inhale, is going to affect us on a cellular level. So that's why it's important to be mindful of what we eat and how frequently, and whether it suits the nature of movement that we undertake in our daily lives. This flows into the notion of exercise. Our bodies were created for movement, and so we look at the importance of exercise and the neurochemicals it produces in a cascading effect on the body if we know how to exercise properly. Mental hygiene, well, it's just like showering. It's like doing a detox it's the same thing. You have to do the same thing for the clutter and the gunk and the plaque buildup that occurs in your mind. Number 4 is really nutrition for the mind. Just as we need to be aware of the impact the food that we ingest has on our moods and on our clarity and consciousness, we also need to be aware of what ideas, sounds, educational material we are ingesting, or images that we are ingesting. What kind of TV do we watch? How much attention do we pay to the lyrics of our favorite songs? That sort of thing. It all adds up because of the nature of the mind as something that regurgitates the experiences it consumes. In the 4th module, we will look at spiritual psychology. Spiritual psychology is then, so you're functioning great, but now we've only really been focusing on you, what you are. Spiritual psychology is a set of mental techniques, but also philosophy and cosmology that you don't have to believe them, but they're very interesting to entertain. It's like mental gymnastics for the cosmos. It's how do you connect in the bigger picture of being on Earth. Religious people, who have a tendency to believe in the Father or the Son or Allah or the Prophet or what have you, already have that sense of connection to something larger than themselves and already feel that they are a small organism in that. So that, in a way, the idea of faith, the idea of belief that we live in an ordered universe instead of a chaotic universe, is actually really quite helpful psychologically for setting you up as an individual geared towards excellence. And excellence can mean different things to different people. If you are a mother raising children, you want to set a good, emotionally intelligent example for your toddlers. Toddlers chuck tantrums and don't know how to deal with their emotions and want everything their way because they have modeled their emotional reactions on us in the household. But if we provide our children a much more fluid model for reacting to the ups and downs and the vicissitudes of life, then implicitly we are teaching them by example. We're being good role models for them.